In this interview, the president makes it clear, the changes we see today are not random. They are calculated decisions shaped by mission objectives, timelines, and a deep sense of duty to the nation. Even if not every choice is perfect, every step is deliberate, with the ultimate goal of reclaiming dignity, patriotism, and justice for the people. He reminds us that leadership is not just about optimism, it's about resilience. 4 months into the struggle, Traore affirms that neither his energy nor his commitment has wavered. If anything, the growing support from the youth and across the nation fuels their determination even more. The awakening of the people is not just political, it is cultural, moral, and historical. Traore calls on every citizen to understand some practices of the past will never return to Burkina Faso. The mobilization we see in the streets, in the hearts of the youth, is a powerful sign that the country is moving forward with courage and conviction. When asked about justice, Traore's vision is even clearer. Burkina Faso must craft a justice system rooted in its own realities, its own traditions, not borrowed models from elsewhere. Justice here must serve the people, not oppress them. This is not just governance, it is a revolution of the mind and soul. Listen closely to what follows, and you'll understand why the fight for Burkina Faso is about much more than politics. It's about the very future of a nation.
So these are things we discover as we go along. So, pro or not pro, that's all relative. And justice is doing its job. I think what you're referring to is that they made arrests, and I believe there's a trial coming up. The judiciary is independent, so independent that we do not interfere in what they do. So these are speculations that people might have, but it's also good that I hope the treatment is the same for pro-MPSR, and then what? Is it against the MPSR?
Anti-pro, anti-pro, anti-pro.
I hope they'll apply the same treatment to those who spend their time insulting or defaming the MPSR. I'm waiting for that.
They should prosecute them too.
They must.
Mr. President, independence may be valid for civil justice, for common law, but for example, in the military tribunal where judges and prosecutors act on orders, in the case, for example, of Emmanuel Zongrana, your fellow soldier, isn't it you who's pulling the strings?
All right. As you said, my fellow soldier. Well, I think Colonel Zongrana was in prison for reasons I am not fully aware of. And one of the first things was to, first of all, I met with the Minister of Justice so we could look at everyone who's in prison and see what could be done. Because I have a responsibility, and I may have certain prerogatives, such as granting pardons or not. So they explained the case file to me in detail, and so on, and I also get advice, so in certain cases, to let the legal process continue and all that. I said, there's no problem, you can proceed. And in the case of Zongrana, it was said that if there was nothing concrete to hold against him, or he should be granted provisional release while waiting for. In fact, it's a judicial procedure. They do it very independently, and I think that's what was followed, and he was released. I was still quite surprised to see that even from his prison cell, he was already deeply involved in yet another elaborate scheme, because he was subsequently released, and before the ongoing investigations could circle back to him once again, and I think there are technical details that were handed over to the prosecutor's office, notably phones that were seized in his cell, which proved that even from inside, while we were considering his release, there were other schemes underway. So we have no schemes to carry out against anyone. If we wanted to do it, we could do it openly. We have nothing to hide or anything like that.
When you came to power, in fact, some people were convinced that you were on very good terms with Colonel Zongrana.
Very good terms, meaning what exactly? I have a very good relationship with all my brothers in arms. Unless someone doesn't want to be on good terms with. As I said earlier, when something is wrong, I tell you, but we don't hold grudges. But very good terms. Is it? We don't have any special relationship. We've met a few times for work, but we don't have any special relationship. Contrary to what some people think. Me, I'm out at Dior in Kaya. Well, it's true that I've been assigned here and there, but we don't have any special relationship, no.
Mr. President, let's really speed things up now because we have already taken a considerable amount of time. Let's talk about development. When it comes to this particular area of the Sahel, which is somewhat neglected, could you tell us more about it?
Of course, it's a global issue. It's not just limited to the Sahel region. It's true that the situation over there is unique, but livestock farming and agriculture are areas we're going to focus on for food self-sufficiency, which is very important, and also to be able to export and generate wealth. And the Sahel region is particularly rich. I've spoken with agricultural experts, and it's truly an ideal area for market gardening. There are many water points that we plan to make use of, and also to develop forage crops. So environmentalists will identify species so that we can try to create forests for these animals. We want to make the Sahel a hub for each region should have its own specialty. So whether it's meat, milk, or hides, those should be the specialties of the Sahel. So the vision is to make the Sahel a center of development, specifically for livestock farming around these water points, as well as for market gardening.
What Captain Traore is emphasizing here is a paradigm shift from dependency to sovereignty. The strategy is not just about reviving the Sahel, but transforming it into a self-sustaining economic hub centered on agriculture, livestock, and local entrepreneurship. This aligns with broader Pan-Africanist ideals, building wealth from within rather than waiting for foreign aid or investments that often come with strings attached. The plan to create specialized zones like livestock in the Sahel is a pragmatic approach to regional development that plays to the environmental strengths of each area. But the real test will be in execution and maintaining security, without which even the most brilliant strategies can fail. Still, if managed well, this could redefine how African countries leverage natural and human resources to escape the resource curse.
Still in the spirit of endogenous development, instead of relying on external resources, you want to look within the villages and municipalities.
As I mentioned earlier, the current context makes it unlikely that we will get resources from outside. That's why we are relying on our own resources. And I think that in the coming days, there will be an agency that we plan to set up to promote the community economy. So we will try to finance our projects and businesses ourselves through the population, community entrepreneurship, using a cooperative system.
So everyone will have to chip in?
Of course. And this should allow each village, each municipality, each province to create something that belongs to the people who will take care of it.
The current reality is that there are industrial mining companies shutting down because of insecurity, even though these mining companies are sources of wealth and help fund our national budget. How are you going to solve that problem? By working to manage the economic situation.
Of course, that's also part of it. You can't wage war without the economy. Gold is Burkina Faso's main export product, and production is declining because of insecurity. So first, we're working to keep the companies that are already operating on track, so production doesn't drop further and others don't shut down. We're going to open those that had closed for security reasons. We are quite hopeful that we will reopen and secure them, relaunch the sector, but also modernize IT. In fact, I would say revolutionize the sector, because what's happening right now is clearly not to Burkina's advantage. So there are several reforms to be made in the sector.
Do you want to nationalize industrial mines run by foreign-run partners?
No, not necessarily nationalize what is already held, but we need to look into it because the current system does not work in our favor.
Currently, the state holds a 10% stake in all industrial mining companies. 10% of the shares belong to the Burkinabe state.
When you say 10%, you actually control the gold that is being extracted. Since from the prospecting stage, the core sampling, there's no laboratory here to tell you how many grams of gold there are in a ton of ore. That is all done abroad. So they come and tell you that in your gold, there is 10% gold content.
We don't really know what these various changes are meant to address. Are these casting mistakes?
There are no casting mistakes. You know, there are 22 million Burkinabes. There are many people who could fill these positions. So if choices were made, it doesn't necessarily mean they were the most perfect ones. But each minister has a mission, objectives, and we also have a code of conduct. So depending on these factors, we might decide to move you elsewhere. Everyone has their mission, everyone has specific objectives to achieve within set deadlines.
With a lot of optimism and determination. 4 months during which you have been put to the test? Has that optimism and determination not faded? Are you still in the same dynamic and with the same enthusiasm?
More than just in the same dynamic. We are fully committed. You can be assured of that. With the current surge of patriotism felt among the youth, it only motivates us even more. At one point, we thought we had a youth we didn't understand, who wasn't very patriotic. But with what we're seeing now, it encourages us. As I was saying earlier, we need courage. That's what encourages us.
Precisely. What do you think of all these mobilizations happening everywhere?
We are pleasantly surprised, I can say. Truly pleasantly surprised. We understood that the youth have understood they need to move in a certain direction, and we will support them to get there. There are certain things that should no longer be practiced in Burkina Faso. Everyone needs to understand that this youth is here, they are awake. Never again will we be able to go back to certain practices in Burkina Faso. So this motivates us to relaunch the struggle, to have even more courage to move forward.
Mr. President, regarding political and institutional reforms, the people of Burkina Faso are expecting you everywhere, including political actors, but also other institutions such as the judiciary. What kind of justice do you want for Burkina Faso?
Thank you. There are several reforms underway, and I think this will actually be the subject of a dedicated consultation framework. In many areas, we need to be able to implement reforms and truly leave behind good practices for those who will take over after us. Speaking of justice, I was saying this to the CSM, the Superior Council of the Judiciary, and also to the Bar Association, whom I met recently. I want them to be able to create a new kind of justice in Burkina, not one learned elsewhere. A justice system based on our realities and our traditions, so to speak. Because I believe that here, we don't really have prisons as such. It's only the truly deranged people that we often see chained up and left somewhere.